Bucks. 20 bucks. We're down the line for 20 bucks. You think I'm playing? Ooh, 2 hands, look, whoa! And sometimes, ooh, dum 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 dum. Hi everybody! Hi Jubo, Maggie, Mrs. Calabash Cooks, come into my kitchen. I'm just warming up the limes and lemons, and this is just for the garnish for the dish. Now, you might hear some coughing today. We're using spices. I've got the fan like that. I've got the fan going to try and dissipate them a little bit, but I can't put the fan on over the stove because of the noise. So you'll have to bear with us because I am using the spices. The recipes I'm using today are inspired by Mahir Jeffries, and everybody who watches the program knows I'm a big Mahir Jeffries fan. She's a no-nonsense lady. Her recipes always work, and she is Indian. And unbeknown to me, because I thought Indian food, I associated it with rice, but apparently certain parts of India you eat potatoes, which I didn't know. So I've done a frozen spinach with potatoes and a hot and salty sweet pork tenderloin, and this is where the spices come in. So let's go back to the stove. I'll just have a drink to water my throat. It's only lemonade, so let's go back. Now I'm going to start actually with the frozen spinach, and I got a cupful of I'm making half the recipe today because there's only 2 of us and I don't want to waste. Now I've got some, I did actually just bring the water up to the boil in there. Look how easy it is to lift that pan. It's marvellous. It's an aluminum cast iron, not cast iron, cast aluminum, and it's also oven proof. It's non-stick. They're marvellous. So I'm just going to put some frozen spinach in there. I want it just to cook. I've had the spinach draining, and it is a chopped spinach. We might chop it just a little bit more. Let's just, it will only take a minute to cook, but I just want that to cook. Let's just turn that heat up, and now I'm going to leave the lid off so I can keep an eye on it. And you will hear the gas going shh. It's because of the fan. Now in here I've got a little oil. I've got a little grapeseed oil. We can always add a little bit more, little drop more. And I want to heat this. Now I have just prepped the onions, as you can see, so they're just lightly brown. You don't want to see me prepping the onions. You all know how to fry off onions. Now in here I've got tenderloin of pork, which I cut in across the grain into small pieces. You could cook this as a whole tenderloin, but I want it to cook quickly. I like it just sliced like that. And we're just looking at this. Now, the marinade is the first part of your recipe, and that is the marinade. Now you'll notice that I've put down seeds and to grind. Let's just add the pork to this. This has been marinating overnight, 6 hours is about the minimum because you want it all. And I'm going to have to add a little bit more oil to that. The reason why I put seeds down, you can use ground coriander and fennel, but the reason why I put seeds down is the longer it's been ground, the quicker it loses its volatile oils and flavour. So if you do have a spice grinder, then it's worth just grinding it down fresh. It only takes a few minutes. I keep the seeds on my shelf, my herb shelf, and then just grind as needed. And if I have any left over, then I have a little jar that I put them in. But I do try to keep it nice and fresh. It does have a different flavour. So I put a little salt in there, coriander, cumin, cinnamon, fennel, peppercorns and cayenne. Now with the cayenne, I've got my cayenne pepper out because I'm not quite sure how potent it is. You can adjust the heatness of this dish by adjusting the cayenne pepper and the black peppercorns. This won't take long to cook because it's so thinly sliced. And pork can be eaten slightly pink, just like beef. I'm going to move that over to there. Let's switch this off so I don't start a fire. I'm just going to move that. I'm running out of space. Excuse me, I have a stool there. There we are. There we are. So let's just keep turning this like this, because I want this to be brown before I add anything else to it. This is now, you can see it's nicely brown on the side. So I'm going to add the onions. Oh, you can smell the cumin. Oh, I love cumin. And I'm very partial to fennel as well. So there we are. Add the onions like that. I know in the recipe it says take the pork out before, whilst you're browning the onions, but I like to brown the onions first and take them out and then add, because I like the flavour of the onions in the pan. Now that's coming up to the boil. This is almost ready, and here I've got some ginger, a little fresh ginger which has been grated. Add the ginger, a little soy sauce. Now if you've got somebody that's coming that you know has a gluten intolerance, then make sure your soy sauce is gluten-free, because it does have gluten in and it could make somebody really ill. So just check. I usually just use a gluten-free soy sauce, and then that stops any problems. A little sugar, just to take away any rawness. Only a little sugar. I don't like too much in there, but it adds something. And water. Now you can cover, if I'm using a full tenderloin, I will cover this over because I want the tenderloin to cook. But we've only got the small pieces, and that is cooked. We've only got the small pieces, so these are going to cook very, very quickly. I want to taste that now because I might need to just adjust a little bit of seasoning. Let's. The heat is there, almost. I'm going to leave that because the heat, as the sauce is cooked and evaporates, the heat will come out, but it needs a little more salt in there. Needs a little more salt, and funny enough, a little more black pepper. Today I'm not using my mix because I want to adjust the salt and pepper on its own. Let's have a look. I think we might have to add a little more cayenne, but I'll leave it until the end.